So Google Sheets is a programming language. I wanted to show you a quick little bonus idea that I thought of. A bunch of people have done Google Sheets as a programming language for Advent of Code in the past, and I wanted to try my stab at doing a day in Sheets. So yeah, here it is. Let's jump into it. Okay, so I'm going to start with a blank sheet, and basically we need a way to import our data. I'm going to start with just the sample input from day 6, part 1. We'll be implementing both part 1 and part 2. And I'm just going to use the sample data to start with, and then we'll also show the full data set for my particular code to show that it works. Okay, so we'll paste this in here. And the first thing you'll notice is that Google Sheets did not kind of spread out this comma separated value. Actually, let me zoom in so we can see this better. That's probably a little bit better for those of you viewing this. But there is a neat little, yeah, that's the first time I've opened Sheets. There's a neat little thing, which is split text to columns, which basically allows you to automatically format your data for you. So you don't have to do any parsing. You don't have to do any special inputting. Another thing that you can do if you hadn't thought of that is if you do sed, replace a comma with a tab and input your data here. If you copy this with tabs into Sheets, it will automatically do that for you. So if you didn't know about that little thing, you could have done it through this approach as well. Okay, but if we look back to how I solved this in the previous video, I used a counter to solve this, and interestingly, Google Sheets actually acts as a pretty decent counter for us. So I'm gonna, let's see, we're gonna figure out the initial value here, and then we're gonna have the days in this column. We don't actually use the days for computing, but I'm just gonna fill them out so that it's easy for us to see. And what we need, like 255 of them, somewhere around here. And we can delete these. So we need 256 for that day, but we only need 80 for part 1. Okay, and for the initial, we basically want to have a counter for each of the different value types. So we're gonna have like C0, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, and C8 for each of the various numbers there. And we basically just need to count the values in this row. And so we're gonna do count if, I think it's 1:1. Yeah, that gets us that whole row. And our criterion for this is equals 0. And unfortunately, we have to do that for all of these. But with, instead of 0, and there's probably a more clever way to do this. I'm not super, I do use Sheets sometimes, but not that often. 6, 5, 4. Oh, we have a count there. Nice. 3 should have 2. 2 should have 1. 1 should have 1, and 0 should have 0. All right, cool. So we've done kind of our initial parsing here, where we have all of our data values here. Now, if you remember from the actual solution, the count of a particular number in the day is the count of the number plus 1. So we can just fill that in really quickly. If we do this and then fill this across the entire rows. Of course, this is not correct for 8 or 6. 8 will be the count of zeros. So we do equals and then fill in this guy here. That'll get us our 8 count. And if we get our 6 count, it'll be the 7 count plus the 0 count. And so after we've done that, let me just shrink these down so that they're a little bit easier to see. Just double click these to shrink them a little bit. Yeah. And then they all show up on one screen for us here. It's probably a better way to do this, but again, not very familiar with Sheets. Okay, cool. So now we have our initialized counters and we kind of have our computation for day 1. All we really need to do at this point is fill this computation down to all the days we need to compute. So we fill this all the way down to 256. It fills in all those numbers for us. That's essentially our counter computation, but in a spreadsheet. And if we pick out day 80, which is on 84. So we add 4 to that. Let's actually insert a few rows here just so that we can get our data here. So for part 1, oops, and part 2, part 1 will be a sum from B84 to 84, that entire row. Oh, we need the equals, right? Equals that. And let's just join all these cells so that this represents that. And this will be sum from, what was it, B260? Is that right? Join cells. And is that the values that we expected here? 5934. Am I off by 1? Off by 1. B84 is day... Oh, I did day 77. Oh, because we added more rows. Okay, so I actually want B87. So we need to add 3 to this. That's what I get. Oh, right, I inserted the rows and then didn't count for them. Okay, but after we add 3, we get 5934, which is our expected for part 1. And for part 2, we expected 2698 and 2698. We indeed get that. Now, the really cool thing about this is we can actually take our real inputs and plug them in there. So if we cat day 6 input.text, and I'm basically just going to do the same thing that I just showed you, where I copy this into the first cell and then do data split text into columns, and the spreadsheet automatically computes that all for us. Pretty nifty. Anyway, here's day 6 implemented in Google Sheets just because I wanted to see if it was possible and do it. Anyway, hopefully you found this interesting, and I will see you in the next one.